So when I was reading the documents, some of the documents in that Vermont docket about wind, it sounds like their state mandates some kind of testing procedure, noise testing procedure after.
That the verified complaint is valid, I guess.
Well, I don't know if it's related to a complaint, but there's just a noise monitoring program. And I was going to get more information on that because I think local governments, they might be interested to know that this is something that they might want to consider.
Maybe we discussed this, but related to that, right, and maybe we're all working on this assumption. I forget what language was in the original sample zoning language, but it makes sense, right, that since we have modeling done initially, that after the wind turbine farm is in operation, that 60 days later or 90 days later or whatever, somebody comes in and actually do a test to verify. Okay, that creates not that something could change, but that basically should provide some assurance that they're in compliance, right? Because what's going to change from year to year? Now, having said that, I think, yeah, there needs to be some sort of complaint process.
Well, in any other, so if I'm concerned about emissions from the local factory, I can call DEQ.
Yep.
If I'm concerned about my workplace, I can put a complaint into my OSHA. There's no mechanism here to check to see are people within the regulation.
I think too, when you pointed this out, whenever you have a local government ordinance, okay, there's a complaint process.
Yeah, but they don't have the expertise,
Right.
and we don't address it. We don't say,
Right.
we don't. There's nothing where we suggest what you should do. If somebody said, "Hey, this is much noisier," all of a sudden, over the last 6 months, it's been much noisier
Right.
than it ever was.
Yeah.
So now what happened?
And what makes this a more difficult situation, right, is that to determine compliance is not a simple process.
Yeah, right.
You have to hire somebody at probably significant expense. And then the issue, like we talked about before, is who's going to pay that person? Local government doesn't want to pay the person. The wind developer might be willing to pay somebody, but then there's an issue that they're paying the person, and is there a conflict of interest? Certainly the complaining neighbors don't typically have the resources. We've never really kind of figured out.
Well, it wasn't an earlier draft, and we took it out because there was some complaint about who was going to pay for it. But I guess I raised my hand to say I was not happy with the current conflict resolution because it doesn't address.
So we're not done yet with the other parts of the document, currently. I don't know.
At least one other part, if you agree with me.
Ken, do you have a suggestion on how we handle the pay issue?
So, I thought there was, things that we discussed was that there would be money put up by the developer that would cover this and that would allow the municipality to hire somebody. And then there would be independently, and then the issue came, well, what about repeated, quote, frivolous things? But that's no different than, the municipality would have to decide, I want to spend the money on this, or this is the 15th time the person has complained about the same thing, and we've already checked it. That would be up to the municipality to decide. But so that's one way that we suggest that municipalities could collect money that would allow independent testing to ensure that a wind turbine facility is within regulation.
I think that has a number of advantages. One being that you have more independence, local government's hiring a consultant. The second is, if you make it an upfront fee, you basically are telling the wind developer, this is it. This is what you're you don't have to keep paying for the rest of forever. We've determined the reasonable amount of money, which we collect maybe annually or at one time, is so much, and that's what's available to deal with complaints. Now, I don't know what that amount of money is.
Still, the mediation could help resolve a lot of this and smooth it over, the process, right?
When Russ Lundgren came in and made a presentation to our group, didn't he say that's what they do in here in county?
Yes, I don't ever invent anything. I think it's.
Yeah, they collect money per turbine, I think, and put it in a fund for the county.
Per turbine?
I think he said it was per turbine.
Well, you know, we could even maybe discuss them doing that in this section.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah,
We
and,
could say Huron County, blah, blah, blah.
but the other parts could be left in as well.
Yeah, I'm not objecting.
This could be added on, right? I would agree to that. I think we'll let this rest for now, this issue of conflict resolution, and maybe we'll try to come up with some language for next time, next meeting. Certainly the bigger issue is still noise, I realize that. Anything relating to physical safety, because there is an issue regarding distance of turbines from residences that, as I've said before, does not relate to, in my mind, to noise at all, because it's still very much too close to prevent a lot of noise complaints. But at least in terms of physical safety, we haven't provided for any margin of error in terms of distance if a turbine falls or if there's ice throw or any of that kind of thing, beyond the tower height and its maximum blade height, I think. Shouldn't we add a fraction, at least, margin of error to that? 1.5 maybe, or
You know,
at
there's
least?
the Vermont document, the Public Service Commission there referred to some studies that talked about the ice throw distances and things. So how about if I research that and then
That's a
provide
good
you
idea, I think.
some links to look at?
Okay.
So we can't decide today because I haven't done
It might not be
research.
a lot more, it won't maybe be twice. But again, we try to separate the physical safety issues from the noise issues. And the physical safety issues relate to the minimum distance where a person, a residence is protected from ice throw and falling into the tower and so forth.
We do have language in here about some ordinances are more protective and have specified the setback to be 1.1 to 1.5 times the distance.
Right, I've seen 1.1 to 1.5, and that's the kind of margin of error. At least
Yeah.
we could put that in, couldn't we?
Well, and that's.
It's already there.
Oh, it's in your 1609 section, or? Oh,
yeah,
I'm sorry, it is here.
Yep.
Okay. So, again, that's a range, but at least it's a reasonable narrow range.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Um,
I should ask too, just for, you know, I made a number of
Yeah.
comments, and I want to make sure that, you know, most of the comments on the first page were more editorial, and
Copy draft 6? or-
yeah, draft 6, you know, all these.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, you've made some changes to that.
Is there anything there that is of concern or an issue for folks? I mean, it was just editorial stuff.
I didn't have any problem with it.
I made a few more edits.
Okay, good.
But I mean, nothing that,
There is no D-Link, so we had,
yeah, right,
D-Link does not exist.
right.
There were times when, in your comments in draft 6, John, you disagreed with things, but I wasn't sure how to rectify them.
I eliminated most of those sections in my draft, so that
That
was.
would take care of it.
That
Took
was
care of
good,
it, I
that
guess.
would take care of it.
Well, I think we need a full draft incorporating Ken's comments, and maybe the additional paragraph or more on your section on resolution, conflict resolution, the idea.
And we need, I think we need a whole, I don't know, paragraph at least on measurement issues, what Julie's raising. And because as I said a couple times now, it cuts across whatever recommendation, whatever the range is. And I don't know, Jerry, you may be the best person to write that.
Under conflict resolution?
No, under noise.
Okay.
How,
Yeah.
what is our recommendation when we, whatever number we have in the document, for how that's measured,
Mhm.
over what period of time?
Right, I get you, okay.
Is the group agreeable to moving the discussion of annoyance up to the, more the front of the document?
I thought if I changed the second sentence in that paragraph, I could satisfy it.
Oh, that might, okay. That could work.
Okay, I thought if I could change that sentence.
Yes, I think that,
I
I think that will work, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we can include my suggestion of the 50 dBA level as one option.
As a higher level.
Right. which I guess we, like you suggested, we could plug in
Mhm.
right there.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, I guess it's not in the nature of things on these committees to make each of us happy individually, and I'm certainly not happy.
No.
I realize that we need to move the ball forward. Is there any other discussion of any of these 4 sections? Assuming we're going to be able to make these changes, and that becomes, I guess, draft 7. Incorporated pins, you didn't number the draft, but we'll call it 6A or something. Okay?
I think the next draft will be good for sending out for public comment.
We should, I think, at this point, and I think we have to, I guess, live and die by our draft and let it suffer whatever pangs it might suffer from public discussion. But we're going to have to come back together, I think, at some point and make some revisions. So I think it will be in the hands of the WIN working group eventually. I mean, obviously, we have to make some decisions after we see the comments, but we can't incorporate everything everybody mentions because some things are going to be contradictory, just like the things we've been discussing. So, yeah, I think that's probably the move we're going to need to make.
But just a clarification, so our draft goes out to the WIN working group. Who actually sends the document to the Public Service Commission? Does the WIN working group do, or we take the comments from the WIN working group and send it? Who's going to send this on when we incorporate the comments?
I think the way the process will work, you tell me, because I'm still chairing the WIN working group. The WIN working group does not really have a structure for voting per se.
Okay.
Because it's basically an email list of like 600 people. So there's a lot of people.
800 now.
800.
Okay.
So we'll have a few comments.
We'll probably have a few comments, to be a significant amount of reading on our part, and then maybe discussion of further changes. I think what that leads to is basically then, okay, we do a final report, and we submit it to the WIN working group, but they.
After seeing the comments, or certainly before, but after as well, after the comments are in?
Well, yes, I mean, we finish our draft, right, we send it out for comments, we get 1,000 pages, we
Right.
read them all, we decide if we
Well-
want to change anything, and then basically we submit it to the Public Service Commission.
So we will submit it. This committee will submit it, or we're going to submit it back to the WIN working group, and you're going to submit it?
Well, that's fine too, because, I mean, yeah, I'm the chair, so you can submit it to me and I'll pass it on to Julie.
You had mentioned the
Which is-
process.
but maybe that's
That
important.
might make this a little more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But presumably you're not going to review it again.
No,
Presumably you'll take what
Remind us what
Yeah.
that process was again, I sort of forgotten.
Yeah, I talked to Jerry a little bit about how we could actually do this logistically, and what I proposed is we have an email address that, it's just a generic email address, and just direct people to send their comments to this email address, and then we have some people on staff who can work on categorizing the comments, and
Right.
so, and maybe making a list of all the studies that were mentioned and that kind of thing. And then providing the information to the technical working group that way. And I just have to say, after the WIN working group is done with its incorporating comments, I imagine we'll probably just post the recommendations that are on the WIN working group website. I don't see the commission having any involvement.
Oh.
So I think once we post it, then it's possible that it might get incorporated into the sample guidelines down the road, but I think once it's posted on the WIN working group's website, I think it'll be ready for use.
So going into the sample, replacing this document, this has to come from Laura?
No, we haven't figured out how that works, but that document may be under the control of the Bureau of Energy Systems, which is now in a different department. So.
I mean, I thought ideally we were updating this document,
That was the original intent.
but is that no longer the intent?
Good question. D-Lake doesn't exist.
Well, that's why I gave it the proper name,
Right.
and that's how my understanding is how it's pronounced.
Yeah.